Hey, good day once again. Welcome to the Weekly Harvest, talking all things Brandon Wheat Kings. My name is Chris Falko, Director of Game Day Operations, Community Relations with the Brandon Wheat Kings. He's Rob Mann, the voice of the Radio Wheat Kings on the radio. Rob, how are you?
Doing pretty well, Chris, but I gotta tell you, there's a lot of bags under eyes around the Wheat Kings office today, mine included. It has been a 24-hour span.
Talking to a few people today, they're like, man, yesterday must have been so busy around the office, must have been so busy. And I was like, it sure was at the end.
Yeah, it wasn't until it was.
There was times where it was like, hey, I guess I'll just keep doing other stuff I was going to plan to do today. I just kept doing my to-do list. There's always stuff to do around here, but I didn't want to get caught really into anything. So, of course, trade deadline day, we need to be ready. If a deal happens, sometimes the turnaround to announce these things before they get leaked and everything, you have an hour at the most sometimes, and that includes to contact people and to make graphics and to get videos going, and it can be very whirlwindish. Or it can be like yesterday, Rob, where it was a whole lot of us just kind of poking our head in going,
anything happening, guys?
How's it going, guys? How's it going? Again. And the mood was tense around here yesterday, so you could tell that something was probably up, that there was people kept leaving, taking phone calls back and forth. There was buzz happening, but they weren't giving us much, and there really didn't seem to be much really until mid-afternoon.
Yeah, I would say it was after lunch where things began to kick into high gear, and it gives you an idea of just how quickly a trade can come together after weeks of back and forth, because our day yesterday was all fits and starts. It was, long stretches where we're thinking, all right, well, we need to do this for the game day, but we can't really do this until we know what the roster's going to look like, and we don't know what the roster's going to look like until such and such a time. And then, all of a sudden, like a lightning bolt, we get trade number 1, followed swiftly by trade number 2, followed swiftly by a reassignment. And that's the nature of the beast in junior hockey, is you can have what appears to be a calm day, but something is bubbling under the surface, and all of a sudden it's all hands on deck.
So if you are just tuning in and have not heard about everything that took place yesterday, we are going to get into it with Wheat King GM and head coach Marty Murray very soon here. But basically, the trades we're talking about, it was Nate Danielson being traded to Portland for, now I'm going to do this off the top of my head. Let's see if I can do this here. It's Nicholas Johnson.
1 for 1.
Rhett Ravindal.
I'm going to give you 2 for 2 on that one.
Rhett, I'm sorry. I'm going to get it. I love that name, though. Ravindal. That was going to have some sauce.
It rolls off the tongue.
It really, really does. We've got a first-round pick coming up in 2025. And then 2027.
So you're 4
and
for
there's
4.
a 5th-round pick as well, I think, in 2027.
26, but
26.
I'm going to give you that one. That was pretty good.
Close. But either way, so the bottom line is 2 first-round picks and a 5th-round pick, plus the 2 players for Nate Danielson. Then with that, there's also Evan Greening going to PG, that one for a 10th-round pick, and then we made the trade for Kent reassigning because of the D. First of all, off the top of the pod, after we say all that, I want to say a very heartfelt, thank you to Nate, thank you to Trey. Different amounts of time spent here, but once a Wheat King, always a Wheat King. And both those guys, I mean, even Trey was just here. He was in the community. He was a part of the events. Nate, of course, did spend more time here, and being the captain of the community, going to have a lot more roots. But it is one of the hardest days, trade deadline, when you have to say goodbye to good people, which we're going to get into with Marty.
And it doesn't get any easier, because both Marty and the players will tell you this, that Jan 10 looms like this shadow over the entire first third of the month, and when it's there, it's a nervous day. I've been part of it with 2 different organizations now. My first year in the league, we were on the road with the Raiders, and there was some question over whether Ozzy Weisblatt was going to be moved. And we're sitting at a team meal, and every time somebody's phone goes off, everybody's like, nah! Is this the moment where someone gets traded? I felt bad because I won't say which one, but I had to send a player a text yesterday to set up a media interview. And I realized after I sent the text, I went, oh no, he's going to feel his phone go off. And there's going to be that moment of utter panic. And guys cannot be more relieved when January 10th turns into January 11th, because you get through that day, that white knuckle day, and you're still with the group or you're with a new group, but you know what your junior hockey fate is.
Overall, it was a tough day, but when I hope the people look back on it, it is going to be a successful day in the history of the Brandon Wheat King franchise. And it's not a bad day for Mr. Nate Danielson either, getting to go to Portland, where as we about to embark on our first cold warning of the season, my phone just buzzed saying minus 40 to 50 coming this weekend here. Oh. Seriously, we're talking minus 40 plus.
Do you want me to tell you what it was in Portland today?
What was it in Portland today?
It was 7 degrees.
I'm sorry, Nick and Rhett. But welcome back to the prairies. There are a couple of prairie boys, so hopefully they're semi-used to it. But, Nate's going to be just fine playing the Winterhawks. Hopefully, the crazier things have happened. We go on this miracle run, meet them in the finals. Who knows? But it was a sad day. But today we flip the page, and it's looking forward. We've got a couple of big games coming up this weekend. You've got the Swift Current Broncos. I promise we're going to get to Marty Murray here very, very shortly. But we got Swift Current Broncos on Friday night, and then we have got the PA Raiders on Sunday. And now, Rob, these games all of a sudden become not extra important, but real extra judge-worthy, that you can be like, okay, let's see what this team is now.
I think you can, in addition to being 4-point games, because both these teams are immediately around the Wheat Kings in the standings, I think you can get a good gauge of how the Wheat Kings are going to play going forward and how guys are going to react to the absence of a guy who they've leaned on. We got a bit of a teaser of that at the start of the year and during World Juniors, but now you get the real deal. As they say, the bullets fly for real. I keep coming back to my experience on the trade deadline with the Raiders, but I do want to bring it up one more time because the Danielson deal reminds me inescapably of the Caden Gooley trade my first year in the league. The Raiders sent Caden Gooley off to the Edmonton Oil Kings for a very similar package, actually, to what the Wheat Kings got for Nate. And the result was, as time has gone on, you had 2 roster players come in. And those 2 roster players fit like a glove right away. You had one player, a defenseman, Eric Johnston, come in to replace the roster spot of the departed Caden Gooley. In this case, that's going to be Nick Johnson, ironically, similar name. And then you had Rhett Ravendal on defense coming in for the Wheat Kings to help out on an area of the game where they maybe need a little more help. For the Raiders at the time, that was Carson Latimer. They brought in a guy who helped them in the present. It was almost a hockey deal. But in both cases, the quality and caliber of the top player being moved was such that you can make a hockey deal and also get assets back like first-round picks. And that was the case with the Raiders. They got 2 first-rounders for Caden Gooley and a later-round pick. The Wheat Kings have done the exact same thing with Nate Danielson. The parallels between the 2 teams and the 2 trades are striking, but I can tell you the results for the Raiders were you got Carson Latimer, who went into your top 6 right away and who was immediately impactful. You got Eric Johnston, who is now the team's captain. You got 2 first-round picks, one of whom's in the lineup already, and the other one of whom, if you haven't heard of this kid, go ahead and plug Daxon Rudolph into Google and look at what he's doing, what he is inflicting on the U18 ranks this year as a defenseman. That trade worked out pretty well for Prince Albert. The potential is there for this trade to work out both present and future for the Wheat Kings because you get guys who have that fire in their belly to replace Nate, and you shore up the defense a little bit. There's good news to be had here in the present.
Well, that is a little bit what we think about it. Let's hear what the Wheat King GM and head coach Marty Murray had to say about it as he was here in the Wheat King studio just minutes ago. So here it is, our interview with Marty Murray after the trade deadline. And joining us now here live in the Wheat King studio, we have got Wheat King general manager and head coach Marty Murray. Marty, how you doing today?
It was a long day yesterday, so a lot of emotion here the last 24 hours. So we're getting through it.
You look a lot better today.
Yeah, no question. It's a busy day, and like I said, there's a human element to it, and then a business side of it too, right? So.
Yeah. I've heard it said that the day doesn't get any easier. I've heard both players and coaches say that. January 10th is as exciting as it can be for people who observe the league. For people right in the thick of it, it's got to be a stressful day.
It really is. I mean, I don't enjoy it, to be honest with you. especially making a deal like yesterday. It's not an enjoyable thing.
This is a situation where you had to look around at the other teams and what everybody else is doing. And of course that, kind of decides what you are going to have to do. Knowing how well the team was playing when Nate was gone to World Junior Camp, was that a big factor in deciding the best way to play this out?
Yeah, I think both of those points were something that we took into consideration heavily. You follow the Western Hockey League, you see what, 3 of the teams in our conference did, right? And, I'd love to have been one of those teams. We just don't have the assets in the hopper to get involved in something like that at this point. And everybody managed their team different, and we weren't in a position to, move that many future assets to, be in such a competitive year coming into the conference. So it was a real tough one. Something that took a lot of our time over the last little while, and like you touched on too, I think that we were positive with the way the guys played over the Christmas break with Nate being gone at World Juniors, and so I think both of those things had a lot to do with our decision yesterday.
I keep coming back, and it's been brought up on the podcast earlier as well, to a trade that the Raiders made my first year in the league, and that was trading Caden Gooley. And right after that trade, Curtis Hunt said something to me that stuck with me. He said, we need certain guys now to spread their wings and take that next step that they've been kind of threatening to take for the last little while. So for the Wheat Kings, and I know you said that replacing Nate is not a one-man job, but who, so to speak, spreads their wings?
Well, I think everybody has to, and I think that's a great point. Nate played 20-plus minutes a night for us and played in all situations, and I love him as a player and as a kid, obviously, but that's a lot of ice time, and it now becomes an opportunity for other guys to expand their roles, expand their their role with their team, and we're looking for everybody. Like you said, it's not just one person that's going to replace what Nate did. We're bringing a forward in, and I think he'll complement our group well, and as well as some players that I think can grow on what they've done, and we're past the halfway point of the season, and we're through that kind of rookie stage of the season, and it's an opportunity for everybody to step up.
There aren't many guys in the league who have the role that you do, that you have the dual GM and head coach. So not only are you looking out for the future, but of course you're trying to win a game every single night. You want to ice the best team. What was that like going into this trade deadline, trying to almost fight yourself at times, I would imagine?
Yeah, the head coach hates the GM right now. So. It's challenging. And I think that, one of the things, when you're doing both roles is you get so attached to the kids too, right? You're down there with them all the time, on the road, on the bus, and, you get to know them on a personal level that much more. So, to move anybody out, we moved Nate out yesterday and sent Trey Fouquet back to Nipawin. Those are, both excellent kids, and you grow attached to them, and you can see how they fit in with the guys, and that's such a big part of junior hockey. So that's one of the biggest things for me that tugs at the heartstrings is just the human side of it, and I played a long time and went through a lot of these days at the trade deadline, and I've lost some real close friends right at the deadline, and it stinks, and you can see the reaction. And we had a team meeting yesterday after we made the announcement, and felt it was important to just give the guys our feedback on what the thoughts were, and it was hard. There was a lot of emotions, and the guys were upset, and they have every right to be. I was upset too, and it's kind of the hard part of the business side of hockey.
I'm glad you brought up the team meeting, because you have to address a group. When you trade their captain, that's just something that you have to do. And there's a handful of guys in that room who have played with Nate for a couple years now, and a couple, Rosemont Highland, who started their careers with him. When you got a sense of what the mood in the room was like, what was it like having to address that group of players who had grown so close with Nate?
Yeah, we had 2 separate meetings. We brought in our captains and our 20-year-olds, and the whole group as in general, and we just wanted to make sure that everybody's okay, and they understood where we were coming from, and again, like you never want to trade a Nate Danielson, but you look at the big picture, and we wanted to make sure the guys know that the expectations are still there to compete every night and be a playoff team. That's, I think, really important for us. And the indicators that we got yesterday, coming out of the team meeting into the captain's meeting, was you could see Brett Hyland said some really good things in the captain's meeting. You could see the fire in his eyes, and to me that was a real positive. Practice today I thought was positive. The guys had a good energy to them, and lots of smiles. So I thought that was positive as well. And we can't forget about, we have 2 players coming in too to join us that I think are going to really help our group. And we want to compete every night and have a chance to win every night. That's the goal.
I really want to get into those 2 guys. Now, let's just cover, though, there were 3 official moves made yesterday. So the first one of the day was Evan Greening, who was reassigned to Verdun last month, officially moved on to Prince George. Then the second move of the day was of course, the Nate Danielson move, and then the Trey Fiquette reassigning because of that, bringing in the 2 players. So now with this, the 2 guys coming in, we got, first let's talk about Nicholas Johnson, who, judging by the highlights that I got to make for the video to put, on that as a forward, he seems to be a guy who brings some speed, he seems to have some hands, but doesn't have a whole lot of a shot there yet, and I think he's going to have more of a chance here.
Well, Portland's a really deep team. They have as deep for a group as anybody in the league. So all those guys, they play, their top guys play, 17 to 19 minutes, and then their second, third line guys are all around 13 to 15 because they're that deep and to share the wealth there. So, Nick's one of those guys that he averages, around 14 minutes a night, and, I think he's going to have the opportunity to expand his role with us, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he brings to the table. I think he's, a bigger body guy that, plays the game the right way, that can contribute offensively. He's plus 17. I think he's dependable in his own end too. So, that's one of the things too. You deal with a team like Portland that, these guys come from a winning culture and play the game the right way. I played for Mike Johnson in both World Juniors and in LA, and really appreciate what he, how he approaches the game, his smarts, and so that means a lot too with these guys coming from a winning culture too, and to bring that winning culture into our locker room with what we've had established already. I think it could be a recipe for success.
And one thing that struck me when the Wheat Kings played the Winterhawks in that game was that Portland is, top to bottom, a fast group. Like, all those guys seem to have good skating legs. Fair to say that for both Johnson and Ravindal, skating will be a strength?
Yeah, I think so. I think, Nick's more maybe a power forward, but, Rhett, I think, he's a smooth skating defenseman, and again, kind of, much like Nick in the forward position, they're so deep up on the back end as well that, he'll have an opportunity to probably play more minutes. And the nice thing is they're both 05s. They're, potentially could stay with us for 2.5 years. So that's something that was important to us as well.
I know he doesn't be too much of a big of a scoring defenseman right now, but I got to tell you, the name Rhett Randvidal, I can picture really giving that name some sauce on a goal call one day, and I think it's got some potential to have some fun with that.
Well, hopefully we hear it.
That'd be great.
We got to find their goal songs too.
I got to send out those texts. I did not. Speaking of which, so the guys that, it's a big long trip now from Portland. So do we expect to see them in the lineup, or even just here around this weekend? Are they going to be flying, driving? Is it going to take them a while to get here?
Yeah, they're driving. I think that's the 2 furthest points in the Western Hockey League, Portland and Brandon. So they're driving. I think the plan was to get to Lethbridge today, and then probably get here sometime either tomorrow night or Saturday. So it's a grind. So I don't think either one of them will be in the lineup tomorrow. And then Nick's a little banged up too, so he'll have to get assessed when he gets here, and hopefully we'll see him sooner or later as well.
I got curious, by the way, and Googled it. I think it's 2,154 kilometers from here to Portland. Google thinks it's a 22-hour drive, and take Google Maps for what it's worth. But no Sunday jaunt. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's a hike.
And to do it immediately, like just that's it. It's pack up and then say goodbye and gone. So
Yeah, I think the nice thing is they both have vehicles, so they'll kind of caravan together, so that helps. And so, especially in the winter conditions and driving, gives you some peace of mind as well.
I'm glad you brought that up because we are right in the midst of the first deep freeze of winter, which is coming way later than we're used to, just in time for these guys to come out here. So is it kind of nice that these guys are both of them prairie kids? You've got a Calgary boy and a Birch Hill, Saskatchewan native?
Yeah, they've probably seen a lot of what they're going to stroll into here in Brandon, and we can only tell them how nice the winter has been. But it feels like hockey season here in Manitoba, and where they're coming from, they've been there, done that.
We told that to Victoria, too, by the way. As soon as Marlon Martin showed up, we were bragging about how nice the weather had been, and he looked out the window and said, "Where was it nice?"
We also have the worst luck of telling how good the BC broadcasters how good our media supper is this year, and they always get the weekday games where it ends up being the pizza or the hot dogs. So I don't know what it is about that. Just some bad luck with there. So yesterday, the one quote that really stuck out for me, besides the whole hockey talk in the write up that Rob did, that he interviewed you, Marty, it was the quote where you talked about how it was maybe like one of the hardest day that you had, and it was a half joke when I said you look better here today, but it really not. Like yesterday, it was obviously a very tough emotional day, but after you get through that, after you get through making the decision, I'm sure you had also a few suitors and deals that we're not going to go into, but after that's just finally done, last night after you left here, was it the weight off the shoulders and then today was the fresh day, or is this something that's going to take you a couple days to kind of get back to you?
It's probably still sitting with me, to be honest. I think the last few days I haven't slept, and last night was the same way. Where I was up, I think at 5 a.m, just kind of staring at the ceiling. So it's every GM goes through the exact same thing. So it's never an easy time. Nobody wants to deliver that news, and sometimes you have to. Well, all the time in these situations, you have to put the personal feelings aside and do what's best for the organization. And we could have went one of three ways. We could have went and bought, and we just felt like we didn't have the assets to spend it to keep up with everybody else as far as what they're bringing in, or we could have stayed put, or we could have moved somebody like Nate to have a look into next year and beyond. And Nate put his fingerprints certainly on the team as a player with the Wheat Kings, and he'll have the opportunity to do that too with some of these assets that we get.
And I think it's important to point out here because social media has been better than I think social media can be when it comes to fan reactions. There's been a lot of understanding as far as the need to do this for the future of the team, but never mind the future of the team. This isn't the team waving the white flag on this season, is it? Like, there's still some expectations around this group and still some guys who can carry the team forward.
Yeah, we fully expect to be a playoff team, and that's one thing we want to make sure that it's not me or four guys sitting in a room. It's the Brandon Wheat Kings organization and their following. That's everything we do goes into that, and we want to look out for the best interests of our club both now and down the road. And then the tempting thing to do is just go out there and maybe overspend, just be in the mix, but at the same time. Some teams have built up a vault of draft picks, and we just didn't have that in that vault right now. And so you got to kind of catch yourself and make sure you're doing right by the organization, both now and in the future. It's important.
It's never easy to say goodbye to good people, but it is a hard business at the end of the day. We've had to do it before, in even my time here, but we've talked about these years before and how they can set up the franchise. When we on the pod, how many times have we brought up the Tanner Kaspick, Cale Clay gear, where you have these guys that, yes, they're here for multiple years, but you have to make that hard decision of do you need them for the next 3 months, or do you need something for the next 3, 4, 5, 6 years? And with this trade, with the two players and those 2 first-round picks coming in, we're going to be talking about this trade in 5, 6 years from now, and the dividends aren't going to be paid off until then. So it's one of those balances where, I mean, it doesn't get easier over time, but it almost gets a little bit easier over time, just to look at it from that point.
Yeah, I was talking to Perry yesterday, and as we know, he's like a human encyclopedia walking around, and I can't remember, the trades that they made with Kaspik and Clegg, but I think one of them was Brett Hyland, Roger McQueen, and somebody else. So it's kind of
it was a multiple first because we had the 3 first-round picks multiple years in a row. So it was the Nate, Tyson, Rylan Rorsma year, and you had the Caleb, Roger, Charlie year. Also in that trade, though, came Luca Burzan, Chase Harchie, and then the trade-offs from there. The actual web, Perry has done it. You're right. He's amazing for that. But he has tracked that trade down, and this is going to be one of those that's going to be just always kind of connected to to that as well. If this is, I think even Nate's was part of that. But anyway, it's one of those trades where, yeah, you're right, Rob. People online were definitely, very sad to see him go. He's a great guy. When I was piecing together that video, by the way, we did that very, very quickly because, as you know, around here it has to be done like that because even though there's actually, here, let's talk about this first, Marty. There was rumors about Portland weeks ago on Twitter, but I was here in the office. You guys, this was not something that was done weeks ago. This was not submitted. This really kind of came down to the afternoon, did it not?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we were, it was the last hour and finalizing things, and you get phone calls late, and there's a lot to digest, and we received a lot of calls as you would expect, but at the same time we didn't really pursue it too hard, and then it's just, I think you got to take a step back and kind of look around and see what's going on around you. And for us, that's was kind of where the decision was made. It's just Nate's an unbelievable player, but when other teams around us in our conference are bringing in multiple first round picks and World Junior type players, it's hard, and again I want to be real careful by saying we're certainly not throwing in the towel. We feel like that we have a team that can really compete, and I think that a team that other teams might be a little nervous to play in the first round of the playoffs, right? And we have a goalie that's is elite at this level, and we know how that goes too. So, that was the rationale for the meeting last night, is just to make sure the guys knew that we believe in them. We're certainly not throwing in any kind of towel, and the expectation is to give ourselves a chance to win every night, and that was the goal with Nate, and that'll be the goal now moving on without him.
And something you and I touched on when we spoke earlier this morning, and something we probably will touch on again, is when it comes to determining playoff seeding, the team has a very strong hand in their own fate. You're going to need some help elsewhere. It's the nature of the business. You can't play every team all at once, but a lot of the remaining games are against teams that are directly in competition with the Wheat Kings for playoff positioning.
Yeah, it's going to happen quick, and we're playing a rejuvenated Swift team tomorrow already, with a lot of new faces, and I'm sure they'll be excited. At the same time, they probably haven't had time to develop a lot of chemistry either, right? So at the end of the day, you have to worry about yourself and go out and play our system, and I think, one thing we talk about is just the small habits, the small details, and I think, playing these teams with, that have added on so much here, those details and those habits are going to be at the forefront for us having success.
A lot of Manitobans on that team too.
10. Our Made in Manitoba graphic has been stretched to its limits.
That graphic has never been so full on that one side. So
they traded away one Manitoban and brought in another. They sent out Fluker and brought in Geeky. And it's, what the funny thing is? I looked at their scouting list. Swift Current has fewer Manitoba scouts than they have in pretty much every other province. Yeah. But yeah, the Manitoba talent on that team, it's wild.
Yeah. Well, we are going to get a chance to see them, and then we got the PA Raiders here on Sunday. We are right in the midst of another little home stretch here. Again, check out the full schedule online at wheatkings.com, but this is the time where now there is no more BC teams. This is it. This is now all conference or division, so the playoff push is in full force. Marty, thank you for taking time to talk to us here today. Really do appreciate it.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks.
Our thanks again to Marty Murray for stopping on in here to the studio and talking to us. It really was an emotional day. I hope that he can get some sleep here coming up in the next coming days. It's obviously you could even see it on him. It's not easy. It's just not easy.
How could it be? He said it. You're on the road with these kids all the time. You get to know them as people. You get to, I've had people ask me, if you're with the team as a radio announcer, do you really care if the team wins or loses? And the answer is yes. I defy you to spend time around these kids and not root for them as human beings. And for Marty, it's the same way. You're watching these kids develop and grow. He coached Nate in his draft year. He watched him turn from a prospect into an NHL drafted player. There's so much development that happens under his tutelage. And to have to ship a guy like that off across the continent halfway, that can never be easy.
Although maybe the quote of the week about about how the coach is very mad at the GM. There definitely could be an article there.
I mean, if we were writing an article instead of doing a podcast, that would be your headline quote right there.
Wheat King coach furious at Wheat King GM.
Should we go full TMZ on it?
Maybe
a lot of exclamation marks.
Maybe to
fake
help
quotes.
Yeah, maybe it'll help make him a little bit happier. Smile him up.
We do want to put some smiles on some faces,
Yeah.
and that's part of the reason we're talking this out right now is because it's easy for it to be a gloomy day for Wheat Kings fans, and I get it. Your captain's been traded. It's not easy, but I promise you there is a silver lining to this cloud, and not just the 2 first-round picks that, incidentally, could either be great players or great ammunition. You heard Marty talking about needing the assets to go out and buy big. Well, they've got a few more assets now.
Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. Lame, but true. Just like this podcast. Have yourself a good week, folks. We're out of here now. That should be a pretty good ending.
Yeah, leave it there.
Let's leave it out. Let's leave it out. We're out.
Cut, print, kill the pig.
It's the Weekly Harvest. He's Rob, man. I'm Chris Falko. Have a good one. Cheers.